Today is Tuesday, September 8, 2020. It's episode number 65. You only have one portfolio. This is the 39.6 Facebook Live Finance Show. The show that teaches high earners like yourself how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, and even the car you drive. In today's episode, we're going to cover an evergreen topic I have been meaning to cover for years, because I always bring it up and I do not have an episode to refer to. You only have one portfolio. Thank you to everybody who's joined our Facebook community, 39.6. We are up to, I think, 474 members. We will hopefully eclipse 500 quite shortly. If you are out there and you can hear me, please say hello. Let me know where you are tuning in from, and we will get this show rolling as long as the audio and video is intact. Okay, so there are a few pet peeves I have when it comes to people talking about finances. And one of my biggest ones is when somebody says something like, oh, I'm invested 100% stocks or 100% equities. And then you ask them how much cash they have on the sidelines, and they're like, oh, I have like 6 figures in cash. Well, if you're sitting on 6 figures in cash, you are not 100% equities, okay? Because you only have one portfolio. That is all of your assets combined form one portfolio. It doesn't matter where the assets are. It is all yours, okay? So if you're sitting on $100,000 in cash and your investment portfolio is $100,000 of stocks, then you're only 50-50, 50% stocks, 50% cash, okay? And I bring this up because we're going to talk about retirement accounts, and I've been kind of delaying talking about a cash balance pension more formally, but I referred to it before. Someone asked for more about it, and I'll have to do a series on a cash balance pension because it's a big topic. And I spent, I don't know how many hours last year talking about a cash balance pension, rolling it out for my group. Kind of got exhausted talking about the topic. I talked about it at the WCI conference earlier this year, and that was a fun talk. And so I'm less burned out on that topic, so we'll bring that back up. But I need to cover this as a prequel. Okay, so you only have one portfolio that is all of your assets. Now, I'm referring to you high earners who have a lot of money to invest and save. And for a lot of high earners, your retirement accounts alone aren't even enough to satisfy your retirement needs based on the spending you have, your lifestyle. Okay, so there are some doctors who can only put away like the $19,500 a year into a 401k, but you're making, let's say, $500,000. That's only 4% of your income. Now, you're also putting in Social Security, but that's like $8,000 or so. So in combination, you're putting in like maybe $30,000 if you include Social Security and your 401k. And if you're making $500,000, it's still only 6% of your income. That's not going to get the job done. Okay, so you really need to be saving more money outside of your retirement accounts potentially just for retirement. Okay, so for you high earners, people who are investing more than just their retirement accounts, I really encourage you to stop thinking of retirement accounts as retirement accounts. Okay, if you're making $100,000 a year and you're putting $19,500 into a 401k, and you're getting some match from your job, and you're putting into an IRA, so you're getting maybe $30,000 a year, that's like a 30% savings rate. You don't need to save more money for retirement if You just want to work for 25, 30 years. Okay. That's fine. But when you're making a lot more, those retirement accounts, you can't just depend on those alone. So retirement accounts are simply accounts that have some special features, some pros and cons. All accounts have pros and cons. I think of accounts kind of like chess pieces. In the game of chess, you have pawn, rook, bishop, knight, queen, king. Each thing is different, and they each can play a role. You can have each one working to their best possible level and be very, very, very functional. Okay. Queens are like the most valuable piece from an offensive standpoint. But if you have like 4 queens on the board, if you promote 3 pawns and have 4 queens, that could be actually a very difficult position to be in the end game, because you could stalemate your opponent. Okay, sorry, that's too much chess reference. But each account has a benefit and a non-benefit. For example, a regular checking account is a fantastic account. It doesn't make you money in interest, but you have access to that cash at any time by just writing something on a piece of paper, and it'll pull from that account. You can do bill payments. Checking accounts are fantastic. They help you manage all your cash flow without having to use cash. They are great. And you can put a stop on a check, and you can't do that with other things, right? So checking accounts, even though they don't make interest, like they'll give you 0.01%, they are very beneficial. On the other hand, on the other side of the spectrum, you have your 401k, your 403b, your 457b. These retirement accounts that if you were just to take money out of them and liquidate something, you could be paying penalties for, okay? And certainly you don't want to be paying penalties unless you're strategically utilizing it to arbitrage your tax rates. So they're different. A taxable brokerage account is great. It allows you to invest in securities and stocks and bonds, and they can be very tax efficient because you can do tax loss harvesting. Okay. An IRA is a great account. It lets you, again, invest in things. It allows you to invest in self-directed things. You can get a self-directed IRA. You can take an IRA and go anywhere and open up multiple different IRAs. Okay, so that's something you can't really easily do with a work 401k or 403b. You're subject to the plan that your employer has available. With an IRA, it's an individual retirement account. You can open up that anywhere and invest in basically anything with very few exceptions. So IRAs are great, but the limitation of the IRA is that the amount is small. You can put in per year. Okay, and one of the benefits is that you can take money out of that, like a Roth IRA. You can take your contributions out penalty-free, tax-free at any time. You can't do that with any other type of retirement account from an employer. Okay, a savings account, a regular savings account is great because it gets you higher interest rates, potentially like a high-yield savings. A high-yield savings from Ally is at 0.8% last I heard, and that's way higher than money market accounts. So you can get great interest rates that are FDIC insured. You can't get that in a retirement account with money market. So there are pros and cons of basically every account, okay? But all of those accounts are yours. And when you think about your overall asset allocation, then I'm just reading there. Yes, too many queens equals problems. Yes, that's true. I lost my train of thought, but I'll post that here so you can all see this comment. This is a problem. Too many queens. Okay, so I'm going to show this back here again. All of those accounts are one. So, for example, our portfolio includes my wife and I have a Roth IRA. Okay, we both have a traditional IRA, which is empty. We just use it for backdoor Roths every year. I have a SEP IRA, which stays empty. I use it to roll over 1099 money every year, or whenever I have extra 1099 money that on Schedule C is positive, and I roll it to my 401k. I have my 401k at work. My wife has 2 different 403bs at work, and then she has a 457b. Okay, so that is all of our retirement accounts. 2 IRAs. Oh, sorry, 2 Roth IRAs, 2 traditional IRAs, SEP IRA. 401k, 403b, 403b, 457b. And then I also have a cash balance pension that we opened up at my job. So that's 10 accounts there. Those are all tax protected accounts. Then we have our taxable joint account. We could have individual investment accounts, but we don't, at least not anymore. We had prior to being married, but we closed those down. So that's 11. And then we have all of our real estate investments, which technically are on the taxable side, but they're not technically an account, but they are all under businesses. So then I have way too many checking accounts. We have a checking account for every business. I don't know. We have another 10 checking accounts. It's a big pain in the butt. Then we have our personal checking account and savings account. We actually have multiple checking accounts. It's complicated because we have one for spending, one for like bills and stuff like that. And then we have our own discretionary checking accounts for our own discretionary spending that we each have that are separate. So we have, I don't know, easily 30 accounts. We use Personal Capital and it aggregates all of this stuff. And what's nice about Personal Capital, and I have no affiliation with them at all, is that it allows you to see your asset allocation for all of your investment accounts. The one thing I don't like about it is all of your cash in your checking and savings, it puts that to the side and does not account for that in your asset allocation, which I would like it to. So that's one of the reasons why we keep most all of our cash at Vanguard in a money market account, because then it actually counts that cash as cash when I look at our asset allocation. And so I've told people before, our stock allocation is super low. It's only like, I think it's not even 30%. And then we have about 10% in cash/bonds. Then we have about 60% in real estate. And this ebbs and flows, okay, because different accounts, we have different contributions going to at different times. So our work accounts, we put mostly in equities. Our taxable account is mostly real estate and cash. We have a small amount of equities in our taxable account for tax loss harvesting, things like that. So it ebbs and flows, and with the market, of course. And today and the past couple of days in the market, equities have been taking a significant downturn, but they also went up a ton over the past 4 months. So it goes up and down, but when your equity portfolio, your stock allocation is only like 30%, the changes are really relatively mild. Okay. Now, in different accounts, you have access to different things. Okay. So we prioritize trying to use each account for their highest and best use. And that allows our portfolio as a whole to work as best as possible. Okay. So for example, we do some private money lending. Well, you can't easily do that in a retirement account from your work, okay, because they don't allow you to do that. Now, we could do it out of a taxable account, but if you do that out of a taxable account, we would be paying 37% plus 3.8%, 40.8% tax on all of the earnings on that interest that we're earning. So it would still be a good return, but we'd be losing almost half of it. But if we were doing that out of a Roth IRA, self-directed Roth IRA, then we can get the full amount of interest back to us without having to pay tax on it. Although we do have to pay for the fees of the self-directed IRA account, but it's well worth it when you're making like, let's say 12% on debt. And so it allows us to have some secured debt that has a high rate of return. I previously talked about L bonds in episode number 58 and how I don't like high yield bonds because they have a potentially high return, but they have a lot of risk, a lot of downside. And I don't find that risk reward to be really in your favor. You're basically taking equity risk with non-equity returns. However, when you're doing something secured, when you have secured debt, then you are protected so that you actually have upside if the loan does not pay out, because you can acquire something that is you're getting undervalued, so you actually have even more upside. So that's a little bit of an exception to that rule of high yield bonds per se, because if you have a secured bond, then it's a completely different story. Okay, I apologize for the beeping sounds. So that's like our Roth IRA. And then our work accounts give us access to bonds and stocks. One of my favorite mutual funds that we have is the DFA Emerging Markets Value Fund, which my wife has access to through her work 403B and 457B using TIAA CREF. So I like that fund. It gives us good emerging markets exposure, and it's a DFA fund. I really like DFA. And it's a DFA value fund. It's something that they're good at. And so that's basically most of our emerging market exposure, although we have some in basically a total international account as well. But that's what we primarily use for our emerging market exposure. So we use that to kind of fill up that piece of the pie that we try to fill up. So it gets a little bit complicated, but in each account, we basically only have like 1 or 2 investments in each account because we already have like, what did I say, 10 investment accounts. It's so complicated already just having so many accounts. It gets much more complicated when people are trying to balance out this perfect asset allocation within each individual account. So complicated. That's like, if you want to have a U.S. large cap, and you want to have a mid cap and a small cap, and then an emerging market and a developed international, it's like 5, and that's just on the equity side. Then you might want to have some U.S. bonds. So that could be like 6 different pieces. And then you're trying to balance that in every single account. And then each account does not have access to all the things you want. Super complicated. So most of our accounts only have like 1, maybe 2 investments. And there's one exception. My wife's 403B that gets $55,000 per year and has the money that goes into it automatically every month because of employer contributions and this mandatory 403B contribution thing. And so that one has like 5 different ones. And we just, whenever our asset allocation is off of balance of what we want it, then we'll just change where that monthly contribution goes to kind of shift the balance over. But we only invest in one of those like 5 things at a time. And we don't even change it that often. It might be like every few months or a year. Once our account gets to be big enough, the changes tend to be relatively small with each monthly contribution. But when you get started, each contribution makes a big percentage of your portfolio. So then it kind of really moves it off kilter. So people don't feel as comfortable just investing in one thing at a time. But it's so much easier just in doing investments into one fund each month, especially in your taxable account. Because if you're going to do tax loss harvesting, it's really hard to invest in multiple things every month and then not be able to readily tax loss harvest. Okay. Yes, I auto invest into my taxable account, and that has made tax loss harvesting more difficult. How do you avoid doing this? 1 investment per month on like the first of the month. Whatever is low for that month, boom, all of it goes there. And then the next month, boom, all of it goes to whatever's short. That way you're not investing in the same thing multiple times, and it makes it so you can tax loss harvest into a different fund at any time. All right. I need to get out of here. Everybody, you have a good night. Until tomorrow.